This is a very intense moment right now in the story of Yaakov. He's leaving Lavan and all of the difficulty that that entailed. He's not having an easy time right now, Yaakov. And he's coming back into Israel, and there's not a happy ending by any means to his story. And he finds out that Eisov is coming to meet him with 400 men. Now, if we know how the story ended before Parshas Vayetze, when Yaakov got the brachas, we know that Eisov wanted to kill Yaakov and said, I'm going to wait until my father dies and kill him, or he even sent, actually he didn't even wait, he said he sent Eliphaz to kill him. And luckily, fortunately for Yaakov, Eliphaz did not kill him. So now Yaakov is faced with this threat of Eisov coming with 400 men to attack him and his family and all what he has. And it's a very intense moment. And we see him, interestingly enough, we see him preparing himself for this confrontation in a few different ways. So first of all, the verse says that he was afraid. And that's what we're going to address. We're going to address the idea of Yaakov being afraid. Yaakov decides to send messengers, angels, two different interpretations, whether they were just regular messengers or whether they were in fact angels. And he also sends a lot of gifts to give Eisov to appease him. That's one of the things that Yaakov does. Now, it says over here, when he finds out that Eisov is coming at him, Vayira Yaakov me'od. Yaakov was not just afraid, but very afraid. Vayetzer lo, and that disturbed him. It disturbed him. And then he does a tactic. He splits his camp into two and says if Eisov attacks one of the camps, then the other one will perhaps be able to run away and survive. That's two things. He prepared for a battle. He tried to appease him by sending him gifts. And he also turns to Hashem with a very heartfelt prayer for Hashem to save him. And these are the three things we learn. And this is how the Jewish people have always approached difficulties and the fears that we face. The only issue that I'm going to bring up right now is discussed in the Chazal, the idea of Yaakov being afraid. There's two different teachings from the sage that's on the surface perhaps seem to contradict each other. Yaakov is worried. What's he worried? He's worried that, God forbid, harm will come to him and his family. The big problem with this is that he was promised by God earlier that I will be with you and I will protect you and I will make sure you come home safe and sound. So people ask, what in the world is Yaakov afraid of over here? Why is he afraid? Very afraid. If you had God's guarantee, promise, that you're taken care of, what's there to be afraid of? So one answer is that he was afraid for everyone else. He knew he would survive because Hashem was protecting him. But what about everyone else? They could be in danger. That's one answer. Another answer is Yaakov was very humble. And he wasn't sure if he deserved the divine promise that he was given. Meaning, Hashem said he was going to protect me and everything will be okay, but that's only if I do my part of the bargain, if I do everything I'm supposed to do. But maybe I didn't do everything I was supposed to do. Maybe I am guilty of some type of level of sin because of the things I didn't do. After all, I was with Lavan for a long time. So the idea is, and this is a famous expression, Shema yigrom hachet. Maybe sin, and chet can also mean shortcoming, maybe because of my shortcomings, in his case, its shortcomings fits better than actual sin, but shortcomings, or even the word chet literally means sin, so maybe I don't deserve this divine promise to be fulfilled, and it won't happen, and even I'm in danger. Those are the two ways to appreciate what's going on with Yaakov and his mindset right now, why he's so afraid, why he's praying, why he's protecting, why he's trying to buy off Eisov. This is what's around his behavior. And again, the rabbis that are explaining him is that Shema yigrom hachet, whether he was humble or whether he was just being honest. Human beings are limited and frail, and who says I did everything I can to deserve God's blessing to be fully manifest for me? Maybe I did, maybe not. Okay? There's another side to the story. There's another side to the story, a different approach in Chazal that mentions two of the greatest people that ever lived. Right? People magazine actually have their greatest, probably the greatest people that ever lived, the most influential, the most wealthy, whatever. So People magazine, when Mashiach comes and and they get a new editor-in-chief because, everything's going to be following the truth when Mashiach comes. So the People magazine final edition, the greatest people that ever lived before Mashiach, when they make that final massive edition, so who's going to be at the top of their list? So two of the greatest, probably the two greatest, or two of the greatest, it's hard to place them once you get that grade, but Moshe Rabbeinu and Yaakov Avinu. Two of the choicest, greatest of human beings that have come into this world and accomplished like no other. Hashem spoke through the mouth of Moshe. The Shekhinah spoke through the Gaon of Moshe. Yaakov was the Bichir Sheba'avot. He was his mitato shlema. He was perfect. He had a generation of perfect tzaddikim he raised. So who greater than Yaakov and Moshe? And the Torah tells us about both Yaakov and Moshe that they were both afraid. And it's interesting because since our religion, one of the fundamental principles of our faith is that God is in control and God runs things and He's here with us and He's watching us and He's protecting us. And so the idea of being afraid of human beings is a little bit of a contradiction to the ultimate faith one has in God and the fact that God has taken care of him. Especially the righteous that walk b'fnei Hashem tamid, they're always in front of God. From the moment they wake up, and even while they're sleeping, Yaakov just slept last week, and he had a dream, a heavenly prophetic dream. So the righteous are always in the mindset of Hashem's presence. So how could it be that Moshe, the amazing Moshe, that was the greatest of prophets, the most humble, the unbelievable Moshe Rabbeinu, was afraid of Pharaoh? How was Yaakov, here now, with God's promise, afraid of Eisov? So this approach in Chazal is critical of them. The choicest of Hashem were afraid. Why would they be afraid? And they say they shouldn't have been afraid. And so it's a classic machloket between two approaches. One is being afraid of danger, a positive trait because you don't feel you deserve for God to save you. You don't deserve a miracle. You don't deserve Hashem's protection. Or is it a contradiction of trust? If I have the ultimate trust and faith in Hashem, then how can I be afraid of anything? Hashem's got me in the palm of His hands. Hashem's got me in His hands. He's holding me. So what's there to be afraid of? Hashem's holding you. Yaakov essentially was promised by God, I got you. Don't worry, I got this. Yaakov, I got you. Now why is he afraid? That's the kasha. He had literally a divine promise, not just we believe that Hashem is going to take care of us. Hashem literally told him, I'm taking care of you. I'm going to bring you back where you came from in peace. Shalom. Don't worry. What's he afraid of? So again, one answer is that he was afraid of everyone else, for everyone else. But the pashtus is he was afraid. And there's another approach, he was really afraid for himself also. So how could it be? Now what about Moshe? Moshe saw an injustice taking place. He saw a cruel Egyptian that already took advantage of this Jewish man by taking advantage of his wife. And now, to conceal that fact from everyone, because he would have gotten in trouble perhaps, is killing this man. He's about to kill this Jewish man, because this Jewish man knows what he did to him. So he's killing him. And Moshe sees this. He sees this. And he sees that there will be no righteous person to ever come from this Egyptian and convert to become Jewish. And he sees what he's doing. And he says, I have to do something. And he comes and he actually kills him, not with his bare hands, not with a knife, not with a rock, with one of the holy names of Hashem. And now, when the next day he hears Datan and Aviram, these two troublemakers, fighting, and the one says to him, are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? And Moshe realizes that people saw. They saw. If they saw, then people know. Oh, now Pharaoh's going to find out about this, and I'm in trouble. I'm in danger. And he was afraid. So you did something to save a Jew, and you used the holy name of Hashem to do it, and you're afraid now of the repercussions by Pharaoh. Why wouldn't Hashem protect you? You did a mitzvah. You saved the life of a Jew.
Was he promised, like in the same with the?
Not a promise, but since in context he did what he did, Mesirat Nefesh, to save a Jew, he did a mitzvah. And he was able to access such a power of using a holy name to kill the Egyptian. So clearly Hashem was behind him. Hashem, you can only do that if Hashem lets you. So maybe he should have assumed, okay, Hashem is going to protect me.
In the case of Yaakov, since he was promised, he should have...
It's a bit stronger. I know Yaakov's case is stronger, but here too, there's reason to say that he shouldn't have been afraid. Neither of them should have been afraid. Now, before we think, how could Moshe have been afraid? How could Yaakov have been afraid? Let me ask anyone in this room a question. You're driving your car late at night from, I don't know, wherever, so from a Sheva Brachas, from a wedding, whatever, and you're going through a neighborhood that's not the best neighborhood. One thing leads to another. You got a flat tire, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, and, all of a sudden you see some hoodlums, dangerous type of people come, they spot you, they're coming, they pull out a gun, they want to rob you, they want to shoot you, they want to kill you. Are you going to be afraid or not? Let's be honest. Okay, and let's say you're very brave. Now let's imagine you get stuck in jail. Okay? And this part of the class should be censored, but you get stuck in jail and you're the wrong color. Okay? And there's a bunch of people that were waiting for someone like you. And you'll understand what I'm talking about. How afraid are you going to be? Shaking. Obviously, we're not being critical of them. We would have been terrified in their shoes. We would have been so afraid we would have fainted from fear. We're talking about the holiest, most righteous, pure, perfect, heavenly people that ever came into the world. They should have been afraid, but we, halavai, we should only be afraid. So we're not being critical of them in that we could do any better. Because let's think about it. We're every 5 seconds we're afraid of something. We're worried about this. Maybe this is not going to come the way I want. We are full of fears and doubts. It's funny. When I read the story of the Jews in the desert, we're going to get up to it soon. You could think, what is it with them? They keep on arguing with Hashem. They keep on not trusting Hashem. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, it's very easy to read the story and get a picture like, oh yeah, of course, if I would have been in their shoes, so obvious I wouldn't have made those mistakes. And then I asked myself, let me ask you, how many times today alone have I doubted God? How many times today alone was I either afraid or did I feel like let down because I didn't get what? Every 5 minutes we're let down. So we're not any better than them. But we have to appreciate and understand where they're coming from, and we have to know what we need to try to accomplish. We need to strengthen our emunah, strengthen our faith to be less afraid and less afraid till we reach a point where we also live in a world where Hashem is everywhere. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was unbelievable. His daughter lit by mistake candles for Shabbat with vinegar by mistake. They were rushing like in our house, rushing Erev Shabbat, no time to breathe. Vinegar, and it's shkia, it's too late, what can we do? Vinegar, it's not going to work. Vinegar is not a good fuel for fire. So what's going to be? So Rabbi Chanina looked at the candles and said, don't worry, my dear. It was obviously too late to light something else. The one that told oil to light, to be a source of light, will tell the vinegar to be a source of light. And so it was. And the candles lit from Shabbat all the way, not just for the night, all the way till Motzei Shabbat. And I believe the story, if I remember, they did Havdalah with that candle, which is itself a question, because how can you do Havdalah on a miracle candle? You're not supposed to do mitzvahs with miracle things, but okay, leave it for the side. But anyway, talk about faith. They all ask over here, how could Rabbi Chanina rely on a miracle? You're not supposed to rely on miracles. So the beautiful answer that I think, and also that I thought and also saw later, beautiful answer is that when for you miracle and nature is the same, then you don't get deducted for a miracle because it's all the same. The same way Hashem helps me breathe every second, the same way that He creates nature every second. He creates the world from nothing every second. He creates nature from absolute nothingness all the time. The same way God creates nature, meaning He creates water to fall, can create water to stand. The same God that creates oil to burn can create vinegar to burn. If you're on that level where it's all the same, then it's not a miracle, and you don't get deducted for it. Now, if you're on that level that you know that the same God that creates oil to burn will create vinegar to burn, so that same God will tell these crackheads that are trying to rob me and shoot me not to do it. He won't let them, because He's making the world, not them. They can't do what they want. He's in charge. And back to our case. When Moshe understands that Pharaoh is going to hear about what happened, so he on his level is supposed to say, okay, Hashem's certainly got this under control. And Yaakov as well. Hashem certainly got it under control. And we have to, as much as we can in our lives, try to bring that out, live in that situation. And it's not going to be Hashem should help and protect. We shouldn't know from terrorist attacks. We shouldn't know from real danger. We shouldn't know from, God forbid, being in a plane that's literally on its way down, the fast way. We shouldn't know from such things. For us, it's going to be little things, these little tiny things, and you see we fall apart. Oh no! My headphones! I left them on the bus. I'll never get them back. Let's work on strengthening ourselves with the little things. To have the emunah in the little, simple little things that don't go our way, and work slowly to build them, to really emulate the true, the ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim in Hashem and Hashem's ways and Hashem's hashgacha. But now let's bring this to conclusion. So, you said something very interesting. For all of you don't see, there's a guy in the back that said that Yaakov wouldn't be wrong. So if Yaakov was afraid, then the right thing to do was to be afraid when he heard that Eisov is coming to kill him. So it's interesting. The Leshem. The Leshem was one of the great tzaddikim, Rabbi Elyashiv's grandfather. He was a big Kabbalist. He lived in the times of the Chavetz Chaim in Europe. The Leshem, they call him, Rabbi Elyashiv. He writes in one of his books exactly about this story. And he brings the two sides. That there's a side that Yaakov was afraid, and it's because he was humble and maybe he wasn't worthy. And he brings the side that says, no, you're not supposed to be afraid. Emunah and bitachon is ad hasof. It goes all the way till the end. You should never be afraid. And he says something along the lines of what he started to say, but not exactly. He says like this. He says, really, Yaakov would have never been afraid. The holy Yaakov would not have been afraid of Eisov. So why was he afraid? He says that Hashem made him afraid. Very, 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 very interesting answer. It's not such a simple answer. He's essentially saying that Yaakov was be'emunah shlema. This Eisov can't touch me. And then Hashem said, but I want you to be afraid right now. And he made him afraid. The fear came upon him from above. And that's the explanation of vayetzer lo. And he was troubled by the fact that he was afraid because he understood that the fear was put on him, not that he was afraid himself. And you'll ask, why? Why would Hashem make him afraid? Because he explains that Hashem wanted this story to play out this way in the Torah so that future generations of Jewish people will see Yaakov's behavior here and learn how they have to act, how they have to be protective of themselves and of their families, and they have to try to appease enemies. If Yaakov would have stood up against Eisov, then the message to us would have been, we have to always fight, never surrender, never compromise, never anything, in the face of danger. And we wouldn't always be on the level to be worthy to be saved by God. And we would end up getting hurt. Hashem said, I don't want the Jewish people to get the message from Yaakov that they're never supposed to compromise and think that every time that there's ever danger that I'm going to come and save them with a miracle. It's unfortunately not going to happen because they're not always going to deserve it. So Hashem made Yaakov afraid so that he would pray and he would send gifts and he would be defensive, and that's why he made him afraid over here. So in answer to your question that Yaakov would have never been afraid if it wasn't the right thing to do is correct. He was afraid, and it was the right thing to do because Hashem wanted him to be afraid. And according to the Leshem, Hashem made him afraid right here. And it wasn't really Yaakov. This idea of Yaakov being afraid would have never really happened if it wasn't be that Hashem wanted it to be so. Very, very radical, I think, very, very out-of-the-box explanation, but that's what the Leshem, one of the great chachamim and tzaddikim of the time, the recent times. So who's going to argue with him? But I think it's a very powerful lesson. Very beautiful lesson. Let's conclude with Moshe a bit. We did touch on Moshe. To date, the most amazing explanation to this story with Moshe that I saw comes in the form of a Likutei Sichot from the Lubavitch Rebbe. He addresses the issues that we touched on with Moshe and what happened, and he brings out an amazing point. He says like this. He says that in life and how life unfolds, together with divine providence and how God manages and runs the world, our mindset, our thoughts, and our feelings towards a particular situation has the power to affect that situation. And he says, based on a Hasidic saying, which also has a source in Tanakh, I forget exactly right now where the source is, but there's a source in a pasuk in a pasuk somewhere that says basically things turned out bad because we thought that they would turn out bad. And I have to find that source at a later date, but there is a source, I remember it. Just don't remember where it is. And what he says is based on the Hasidic saying, think good and it will be good. So the reverse is also implied. If you think bad, it might lend towards things turning out bad. And he says a very powerful idea here. He says that because Moshe was afraid that he was in danger, now that Pharaoh will hear and he's in danger, his negative thought of being afraid that perhaps now I'm in danger and Pharaoh is going to come after me is what in fact caused Pharaoh to come after him. Unbelievable. I mean, he's the Lubavitch Rebbe, he can say this, but we wouldn't make it up on our own, but he's saying that, and that's the message in the Torah. It says he saw and he heard that now everybody knows, so now Pharaoh's going to hear and I'm in danger. And so it was, until Hashem had to actually save Moshe with a miracle by turning his neck into marble, and he was able to escape. But again, according to this, had he have not been afraid, then we would have never seen in the Torah the story of Pharaoh chasing after him and catching him. A very powerful message as well, because now we are told that our part is a very significant part. If we allow ourselves in these moments of difficulty to be weakened and to have a lack of faith and a lack of trust, so then we might be facilitating a negative result. We have to be strong in our faith and our trust, and we have to say, no, Hashem is there with me, Hashem is going to take care of it. And as much as we're able to, we have to hold on and say, no, everything is going to be the way Hashem wants it, and I accept it, and I have nothing to be afraid of. And that helps a positive result. And that is like an investment. The emunah itself is a zchut for Hashem to be more compelled, so to speak. I mean, not compelled, but we affect. What we initiate below affects above. If we want a positive din, and if we want Hashem to go out of the way and go lifim shizin for us, so our added mesirat nefesh and our added efforts here can cause that Hashem will do more for us. And so if we stand in those strong in those moments and those difficult tests, so then Hashem will hopefully deliver and save us from those difficult times and situations. And that's what our part is. We have to hold strong as we can, because if we're weak in that moment, things can become unfortunately much worse for us. So we know it's not set. Our involvement in how things unfold is crucial. It's crucial, and that's what we have to know. Hashem is in charge. Hashem is in control. But he's playing this out with us, and so he's working with us, and so our input is going to affect also what's going to be the end result. I'll end with this thought. I have a discussion with my brother. Asks me a lot of times about hashgacha, and could things have been different? Can my mistakes cause me to lose money? And we get into this a lot, and other people always. It's a concern of a lot of people. So I try to tell him like this, and I think it's a good message for all of us. And I try myself to live up to this as well. It's not easy. I think if we go to a basic, simple approach, we can hopefully try to remove a lot of the doubts we have, a lot of the fears we have, a lot of the issues we have with maybe it was a mistake to go into this deal, maybe it was a mistake to buy that, maybe it was a mistake to sell that, maybe it was a mistake to do that. We instead of living with regret and maybe we did this wrong, I think a really straight, direct path to real trust and faith is this. If I know that Hashem is holding me in His hands, He has me in His hands, so then I can, no matter what, He's always has me in His hands. He's taking care of him. He's holding me in His hands. So now let me ask you a question. Does it make a difference if I have more or less money in my pocket? If Hashem's holding me, Hashem's got me, He's cradling me, He's got me. So what's the difference how much money I have in my pocket? How much less, how much more? What's the difference if I have that deal or that deal? Meaning the details don't matter as much if I understand in general, Hashem has got me in His hands and He's doing the best for me, protecting me, helping me. I wouldn't be anywhere without Him. Wherever I am is only because He's with me and He's doing it for me, with me, helping me. And so if I understand that and I work on meditating on that point, then the details no longer matter as much. Meaning it doesn't matter if this deal is working out the way I wanted. Hashem has me in His hands. This is the way Hashem wants it to work out. And He certainly only wants what's best for me. And if I can't see the positive, I can believe that there's positivity hidden there. And that's what we have to live with. That everything Hashem does is for the positive, and He's holding me and carrying me and escorting me everywhere I go. And therefore, there is no real reason to have regret, worries, fears, nothing. Because if that's your partner and your escort everywhere you go, then what is there to be afraid of? The best bodyguard in the world.